I stared down at my phone, trying to convince myself I wasn't seeing what was right in front of me. The bright screen burned into my eyes as I scrolled through Rachel's feed, picture after picture of my entire family gathered together for Christmas. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even a few neighbors I barely recognized, all of them crammed around the long oak table in my parents' living room. They were smiling, clinking their glasses, plates stacked with turkey and glazed ham, a perfect tree in the background sparkling with ornaments I'd hung there myself over the years. I felt a hollow coldness settle in my chest. Not one of them had invited me. I tried to breathe slowly, but every inhale caught in my throat. My parents hadn't called. Rachel hadn't texted. No one had even bothered to lie to me about being busy. It was as though I'd just ceased to exist in their world. I set the phone down and walked to the tiny tree in my own apartment, half decorated because I hadn't had the energy to finish it. Just one string of lights, blinking on and off in a steady rhythm that felt almost mocking. I'd been so excited for Christmas, stupidly expecting them to welcome me like always. After all, I'd helped pay the property taxes on their house last spring and kept covering Rachel's car insurance month after month when she forgot. I couldn't count the times I'd stepped in to loan them money for emergencies, even if it meant skipping things for myself. This year was supposed to be different. I'd planned to bring a dessert, maybe even surprise everyone with a small gift. I had no idea they were planning a party without me. My phone buzzed on the couch behind me, making me jump. My heart leapt. Maybe someone had realized the mistake. Maybe Mom was finally going to ask why I wasn't there. I grabbed the phone so quickly I almost dropped it. A message from Dad lit up the screen. I opened it with trembling hands, hoping for an apology. "By the way, Rachel's car payment is due this week. You'll handle it, right?" I read it again, convinced I'd misunderstood. No greeting. No "Merry Christmas." Just another demand, as if I was nothing but their personal ATM. My throat burned. I could practically see Dad sitting at the head of that crowded table, too busy celebrating to spare me a thought beyond my bank account. I dropped onto the couch, letting the phone slip from my fingers. The silence of my apartment pressed against my ears. I couldn't stop picturing them laughing and telling stories, the fire in the hearth crackling, warm and comforting, while I sat here alone. I reminded myself they had done this before, choosing Rachel's side in every argument, dismissing my efforts, acting like I was overreacting whenever I asked for the smallest scrap of respect. But this was different. They hadn't even bothered to pretend I was still family. And after everything I'd done for them, I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood up and went to the kitchen, pouring a glass of cheap wine and swallowing it in one long gulp. The taste was bitter, but it calmed me, just a little. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep being the one who got ignored until they needed something paid. I picked my phone back up, reading Dad's message again. The words burned holes into me. Rachel's car payment. Of course, her luxury SUV, the one I had stupidly co-signed for so she could drive around town showing off. They didn't invite me to Christmas, but they still expected me to foot the bill? I laughed out loud, a harsh sound that echoed through the empty apartment. The absurdity of it made me dizzy. This year, something had to change. I set my wine glass down and wiped a tear from my cheek. If they thought they could keep treating me like this, they were wrong. My fingers hovered over the reply button, but I couldn't bring myself to answer yet. Instead, I leaned back on the couch, glaring at the blinking lights of my tiny tree. They'd made their choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. I sat on my couch and held my phone tight. My heart felt funny, like it was jumping around. Dad had asked me to pay for Rachel's car again. I felt my belly twist. Rachel had a shiny big car. It was very fancy, and she always showed it off to her friends. A long time ago, Mom and Dad told me to help Rachel get the car. They said she was too young to pay for it alone, so I signed some papers with her name and my name too. I didn't really want to, but they kept saying I was mean if I didn't help. So I did it. I thought that was nice. But now they wanted me to pay all the money left for the car. It was a lot of money. Dad sent me a paper with a big number on it, $60,000. My eyes went big. That was so much. It could buy so many toys or even a tiny house. Why did they think I should pay? It was Rachel's car. She drove it everywhere. She liked taking pictures next to it and putting them online so her friends would think she was super cool. I felt hot tears come into my eyes. Why did they forget me at Christmas? Why did they still want my help? It made me feel very small and lonely. I called Mom and asked, "Why didn't you invite me to Christmas?" Mom said, "Oh, Amanda, you're just being silly. Rachel needed us more this year. Don't make a big fuss." I wanted to scream, but my voice was quiet. I asked, "So you all had fun without me?" Mom said, "Yes, dear, it was nice. Now please pay for Rachel's car so she doesn't lose it." It hurt my heart so much. It was like they only wanted me for money, like I was a piggy bank instead of a daughter. I put the phone down and hugged a pillow. I tried not to cry, but the tears still came. Then I remembered something. When I signed those papers, they put my name on the car, too. That meant it was partly my car. Rachel always acted like it was hers, but it was mine, too. A small, strong feeling grew inside me like a seed. Maybe I didn't have to help them anymore. Maybe I could do something different. I looked at the car paper again. My name was right there, big and clear. That meant if I wanted to, I could take the car back. Rachel would be so mad if I did that, but I was starting not to care. They left me out at Christmas. They only talked to me when they wanted money. That was not fair, and not nice at all. I stood up and walked around my tiny living room. My head felt full of buzzing thoughts. I tried to calm down by taking deep breaths. They wanted $60,000, but I didn't want to pay it. I didn't think I should. Rachel had the car. Rachel should pay for it. I sat back down and looked at the paper again. The number was so big it scared me. But then I felt something strong, like a superhero inside me. Maybe I could stand up for myself. Maybe I could say no for the first time ever. I picked up my phone to call Dad back. My finger was shaky, but I stopped. Not yet. I needed to think more. Instead, I went to the window and looked outside. It was cold and snowy, and the world looked quiet. My heart felt a little bit braver, like I could maybe do something bold. I would not answer Dad yet. I wanted to think of a smart plan. They didn't invite me to Christmas, but they wanted me to pay $60,000 for Rachel's car? That was too much. That was wrong. I turned away from the window and smiled just a tiny bit. Maybe next time they asked me for money, I would surprise them. When I woke up the next morning, my head was still full of buzzing thoughts. I couldn't believe Dad had the nerve to send me that bill right after they left me out of Christmas. I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. And I needed them now. I picked up my phone and called Mom. It rang 3 times before she picked up, sounding chipper like nothing was wrong. "Hello, sweetheart," she sang. The fake sweetness in her voice made my skin crawl. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "why wasn't I invited to Christmas?" There was a pause, then a sigh. "Amanda, really, you're going to bring that up? We just wanted a calm evening. Rachel has been so stressed lately. You know how fragile she is." Fragile. That word made me want to scream. Rachel wasn't fragile. Rachel was spoiled. "I'm your daughter too," I shot back. "Did you even think about how I'd feel, alone on Christmas?" Another sigh. "Amanda, don't make this about you. Rachel needed our attention. You know how sensitive she can be." I bit down on my lip so hard it almost bled. Sensitive? She had posted 6 smiling pictures online, grinning with a glass of champagne. She didn't look fragile. She looked delighted. "And the $60,000? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "You think I should pay that?" "Well, Rachel's worked very hard, Amanda," Mom said. "She deserves to drive a nice car. You've always been so good with money, it just makes sense for you to help her." My hands started shaking. The way they twisted everything around always left me dizzy, like the ground was shifting under my feet. It makes sense for me to pay $60,000 for a car she uses to show off? I asked, my voice rising. Don't shout, Mom snapped. Rachel is already upset enough. You're always trying to ruin things. Why can't you just support your sister? You know how unselfish she is. I nearly dropped the phone. Unselfish? Rachel had never paid me back for anything. Not the car insurance, not the credit cards, not the money for her broken phone last year. You left me alone at Christmas, I said, my voice cracking. You didn't even call to see if I was okay. You only texted me about money. Stop being dramatic, Mom hissed. You're trying to play the victim again. You always do this, Amanda. We are a family and families help each other. Rachel needed this. You should be proud to help. I felt something break inside me. A thin, tired wire finally snapping. They had decided I was only useful for paying their bills. That was my role. To be the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who picked up the pieces whenever Rachel or Mom or Dad messed up. But not anymore. Mom, I said, my voice suddenly calm. I'm done being treated like an afterthought. I'm done being your bank. I'm not paying off that car. Silence. A cold, heavy silence that made my stomach twist. Amanda, Mom finally said, her voice sharp, if you do this, you'll break this family apart. I almost laughed. What family? The one that shut me out and only remembered me when they needed cash? If that's how you see it, I said, then so be it. Mom tried one more time. Amanda, you're being selfish. Rachel needs that car to keep her confidence up. You know how hard things have been for her. Please don't be cruel. Cruel? I thought. They had abandoned me at Christmas and I was cruel? I looked at the loan papers on my coffee table, my name printed clear as day on the title. A strange calm came over me. If I was on the paperwork, then the car was legally part mine. Don't worry, Mom, I told her quietly. I'll figure something out. I hung up before she could answer. My hands were still shaking, but deep down I felt something new growing. A quiet, steady strength. Maybe for the first time in my life, I was ready to stop letting them use me. I looked out the window at the street below. Rachel's precious SUV sat in their driveway like a gleaming trophy. A chill went through me, not fear, but a spark of courage. They wanted me to keep paying and keep quiet. Maybe it was time to show them who they were really dealing with. I stood by the window for a long time after hanging up on Mom. My breath fogged the glass as I stared out at the street, my mind racing faster than I could keep up. Rachel's SUV was more than just a car. It was the perfect symbol of everything they had taken from me. My money, my patience, my respect. I walked over to the coffee table where the loan papers sat, reading them line by line for what felt like the 100th time. My name, my credit, my signature. It was all there. I had co-signed because Rachel couldn't qualify on her own, and they swore it was just a formality. But the bank didn't think it was a formality. On paper, I was just as responsible for the car as Rachel. If she stopped paying, my credit would take the hit. I'd worked too hard to build my credit. Too many late nights, too many sacrifices. I wasn't about to let them destroy that too. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The loan was still active, but behind a couple payments. They were skating on the edge of default, and no one had even told me. If they missed one more, it would come crashing down on my shoulders. My chest felt tight. They had lied by omission. Again. They'd risked everything I had worked for just to keep Rachel floating in her fantasy. Not this time. I pulled open the kitchen drawer and found the spare key to the SUV. I'd kept it just in case, like Mom told me, but I'd almost forgotten it was there. The key felt heavy in my palm, almost like it was carrying years of silent pain with it. If they could treat me like a ghost, I could treat them like strangers. I started reading up on how repossession worked. The bank technically owned the car until the loan was paid off, and I was listed as a co-owner. If I called them, they could recover it and stop Rachel from driving it into the ground. A tiny voice inside me whispered, "Do it." I imagined Rachel waking up one morning, looking out the window, and seeing her precious status symbol being towed away. The idea made me smile, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I wanted her to finally face consequences. I grabbed a notebook and wrote down the bank's customer service number. My hand was steady now. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life. I wasn't going to pay another cent to keep Rachel comfortable while they ignored me. They thought I was weak, that I would always do what they wanted. They had no idea what I was really capable of. I sat on the couch, the phone in my lap, rehearsing what I would say. I would tell them I was the co-borrower, that I wanted the car recovered before it hurt my credit. That was fair. No screaming, no drama, just facts. The last spark of guilt tried to flare up in my chest. I pictured Rachel crying, Mom calling me heartless, Dad giving me the silent treatment. But that didn't scare me anymore. If they wanted to freeze me out, fine. I'd been alone on Christmas anyway. I took a deep breath and pressed the call button. After a few rings, a calm woman answered. "Thank you for calling. How can I help you today?" My voice didn't even shake. "Hi, this is Amanda Lawson. I'm on the car loan for a white luxury SUV. I want to report that it's at risk of default. I'd like to arrange repossession." I felt my heart race, but at the same time, a lightness filled me, like a weight was floating off my shoulders. The woman confirmed my details and said they would start the process within a few days. That was it. Clean, legal, final. When I hung up, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I knew there would be fallout. Rachel would scream, my parents would rage, but I had finally drawn a line. For once, I wasn't just the nice sister. I was the sister who could protect herself. I looked at the spare key one more time, then put it away in a drawer. They could call me selfish all they wanted. This time, I'd be selfish enough to save myself. 2 days later, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing like an angry wasp on my nightstand. Before I could even open my eyes properly, I saw Rachel's name flashing across the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. I answered, bracing myself. "Amanda, where is my car?" Rachel shrieked so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I could almost picture her standing in the driveway, her fluffy designer slippers sinking into the frost, arms waving in the air as she tried to figure out why her beloved SUV was gone. "It's being repossessed," I said calmly. "The payments were behind, Rachel." "You did this?" she screamed, like I had personally stolen her puppy. "It's in my name, too," I reminded her. "I'm protecting my credit. I'm not letting you ruin it." "You evil witch," she spat. "How could you do this to me? You know I need that car." Need. She needed it, as if her survival depended on driving around in a luxury SUV. I had to hold back a bitter laugh. "I'm sorry," I told her, though I wasn't really sorry at all. "It's already in progress." The next thing I heard was a high-pitched wail that made my skin crawl. Then Rachel hung up on me. I sat there in bed, stunned but oddly relieved. The repo truck had done its job. It was over. Not 10 minutes later, Dad called. I answered, ready for round 2. "Amanda, what the hell is going on?" he barked, not even saying hello. "I had the car repossessed," I said, steady as a rock. "Why would you do something so hateful?" "It's legally mine," I reminded him. "You let Rachel get behind on payments and you didn't tell me. That affects my credit, Dad. I can't let that happen." He huffed, furious. "This is family, Amanda. You don't do that to family." I felt something hot flare up in my chest, but it wasn't shame. It was anger. Family? The same family that didn't even invite me to Christmas? The same family that only calls me when they want money? There was silence on the line. "Amanda, don't you dare turn this around on us," Dad finally growled. "You're acting like a spoiled child." I almost laughed. Me? Spoiled? After bailing them out over and over again? "I'm done," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done paying for Rachel's messes. And I'm done being guilt-tripped by you and Mom." Dad was quiet for a moment. Then he delivered a line that made my blood run cold. "You'd better fix this," he threatened. "Because if you don't, Rachel is going to tell everyone about what you did. She'll expose everything." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean, everything?" He didn't answer directly. "She's upset. Who knows what she might say?" he tossed out. I swallowed hard. What exactly did Rachel know? What could she expose? Before I could ask, Dad hung up. I set the phone down, my hands shaking. Part of me felt victorious. I had finally drawn a boundary. But another part of me was afraid. Rachel's words echoed in my head. Expose everything. What secrets did they think Rachel might spill? What had they been hiding from me? I got up and paced around my apartment, my mind spinning with questions. Was it about the money? About something even worse? The uncertainty gnawed at me. But I told myself I couldn't back down now. I had stood up for myself once, and I would do it again. Let them threaten me. Let them rage. I wasn't their doormat anymore. I looked out the window, the weak winter sunlight shining through, and felt a strange calmness settle in my bones. They could scream and call me names all they wanted. I had done the right thing. Still, Rachel's threat haunted me, twisting my stomach with worry. What did she know? And how far would she go to get her revenge? I would have to find out. I barely slept that night. Rachel's threat kept playing on a loop inside my head. I'll expose everything. Everything? What everything? I got out of bed before dawn, pacing my living room, trying to remember anything I'd done wrong that Rachel could use against me. But there was nothing. I'd paid my bills, helped my parents, even covered Rachel's insurance. There were no dirty secrets to dig up. Unless she meant something about them. A sick feeling twisted in my gut as I replayed all the times my parents had been cagey about money. How Dad never explained why they needed just one more loan. How Mom kept brushing off questions whenever I asked about the house. I picked up my phone and called Rachel, even though I hated hearing her voice. She picked up sounding smug, like she'd been waiting for me to break. "Well?" she snapped. "Ready to fix your little mistake?" "I'm not fixing anything," I said, heart pounding. "What did you mean about exposing everything?" She laughed. Actually laughed, like this was some twisted game. "Oh, you really don't know, do you?" she purred. "Mom and Dad told me not to tell you. Said you'd freak out." My hands went cold. "Tell me what, Rachel?" She sighed dramatically. "You know all that money you gave them? The help for the house? They didn't use it for taxes. They used it to pay off a second mortgage. The house was almost foreclosed, Amanda. They were about to lose everything. They only saved it because you bailed them out." I felt dizzy, like the floor was tilting under me. "What?" Rachel kept going, enjoying every second. "You're their little safety net. If you ever stop paying, they'd lose the house. That's why they're so desperate. It's why they kept pushing you to help me with the car, too. They were out of money." My knees buckled and I dropped to the couch. They hadn't just been using me to spoil Rachel. They had risked their entire house, my childhood home, without telling me? And they let me keep paying without even the truth? I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But nothing came out. "Amanda," Rachel sang, her voice sugary sweet, "if you try to punish me again, I'll make sure everyone knows you let Mom and Dad go broke. I'll tell everyone you refused to help and left them homeless. You'd look like such a monster." That was her leverage. If I didn't bend, she'd spin the story to make me look like the villain. Something inside me snapped. "Go ahead," I said, my voice sharp as glass. "Tell whoever you want. I'm done protecting them. And I'm done protecting you." Rachel went silent, shocked I'd called her bluff. "You can twist the story all you want," I told her. "But I'm not paying another cent. And if you come at me, I'll tell everyone the truth. That you all lied. And that you used me like an ATM." "You wouldn't," she hissed. "Oh," I replied, breathing steady. "I would." Then I hung up. My hands were shaking, but this time it wasn't fear. It was rage. How dare they? How dare they risk everything behind my back, then guilt me into cleaning up their mess? I opened my laptop and searched for a lawyer. If they were going to threaten me, I needed someone on my side who could protect me. I'd co-signed those loans, and if there was fraud, I wanted to know. I booked a consultation with a local attorney. The second I clicked confirm, a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. No more secrets. No more begging for scraps of kindness. If they wanted a fight, I was going to give them one. I put the phone down and took a deep breath, feeling stronger than I had in years. They might have thought I'd always fold under their pressure, but they'd underestimated me. I was going to find the truth, protect myself, and take back every single thing they stole from me. The following week was a hurricane. I barely had a moment to breathe before the phone calls started again. Mom, Dad, even a couple of cousins, all of them suddenly desperate to get my attention. At first, I ignored them. But one night, when my phone rang for the 5th time in an hour, I answered. Mom's voice was frantic. Amanda, you have to fix this. Rachel can't even go to work. She's embarrassed. People are talking. I closed my eyes, holding back a laugh. Mom, I'm not fixing anything. It's her mess. She can fix it herself. She can't, Mom cried. You know how delicate she is. Amanda, please, you're tearing this family apart. That phrase again, tearing the family apart, as if I hadn't been alone at Christmas, as if I hadn't carried them all on my back for years. You tore this family apart the minute you lied to me, I said, calm and cold. You used my money to save the house. You kept me in the dark. That's on you. Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. How could you say that to me? I'm your mother. I felt nothing, just a quiet emptiness. I'm done, Mom. I talked to a lawyer. I know exactly what you did with my money, and I'm done letting you use me. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, so heavy I could almost see Mom struggling to find words. Finally, she tried one last time. Amanda, we're family. Family takes care of each other. No, I told her firmly. Family doesn't hide things. Family doesn't lie. And family doesn't throw someone away on Christmas. I hung up before she could respond. After that, it was like a switch flipped. The family group chats exploded with blame. Rachel posted a long, self-pitying rant on social media about how I had ruined her life and destroyed the family's reputation. Some distant cousins tried to guilt me too, sending me messages calling me cold and selfish. I didn't answer any of them. For the first time, I felt truly free. The lawyer was thorough, even shocked by how much I'd handed over with no real accounting. He told me there was a strong chance I could reclaim some of the money I'd paid toward their mortgage, maybe even damages if they'd misled me. I was scared, but also excited. I'd been afraid of their anger for so long. Now, I realized it didn't matter. Let them be angry. Let them rage. I was done carrying their shame. One morning, my lawyer called with an update. Amanda, if you want to proceed, you have a case, he told me. It could get messy, but you could recover tens of thousands of dollars. I felt lightheaded. Tens of thousands. Enough to finally build a life for me. I told him yes. Absolutely yes. The same day, Dad tried to show up at my apartment. He banged on my door so hard the walls shook. Amanda, he yelled. This is going too far. Open the door. I didn't open it. I stood in my kitchen holding my breath, listening to him pound and rant. After everything we did for you, he shouted, this is how you repay us? Everything you did for me? I almost laughed out loud. When he finally left, I let out the longest, deepest breath of my life. They couldn't reach me anymore. They couldn't guilt me, couldn't scare me. They were on their own now. That night, I went for a walk, feeling the cold winter air sting my cheeks. I looked up at the stars and felt something open up inside me. A new freedom, wide and fierce. They might never see me the same way again. Maybe they'd hate me forever. But at least I could finally see myself clearly, strong, independent, and unafraid. No more secrets. No more lies. I had taken back my power. It took a few weeks for everything to settle. The lawyer filed the paperwork, and the bank confirmed the repossession was final. Rachel's precious SUV was gone for good, and my credit was safe. I hadn't heard another word from my parents since Dad's angry doorstep outburst, and honestly, the silence felt like peace. At first, I felt a stab of guilt. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I had gone too far. But every time that doubt crept in, I reminded myself how many times they had made me feel worthless. How many Christmases, birthdays, and moments of family pride had been built on my money, my hard work, my sacrifices, with no thanks, no love, just more demands. I was done carrying them. My lawyer worked quickly. He sent me updates every couple of days showing me the records of how my money had covered their second mortgage. When I saw the numbers in black and white, my stomach turned. Over the years, they had taken tens of thousands of dollars from me, promising to pay it back or help later. But there was no help coming, no repayment, no honesty. The moment the lawyer told me I could recover a large chunk of it, something in me finally relaxed. It felt like the universe was giving me permission to move on. A week later, I found a tiny lakefront house for sale on the outskirts of town. Nothing fancy. An old place with a creaky porch and a view of the water that made me feel peaceful just looking at it. I could almost see myself sitting there in the evenings with a book and a cup of tea, finally free from their constant demands. I put in an offer the same day. The thought of a home that was mine, paid for with my own money, was a dream I'd carried since I was a kid. No one else would own it with me. No one else would tell me what to do. It would be my sanctuary. When the offer was accepted, I cried for a long time. Not sad tears. Relief. It was like I was finally closing a door on a chapter that had been hurting me for so many years. I didn't tell my parents or Rachel where I was moving. I changed my phone number and blocked them on every social app. If they wanted to talk, they could go through my lawyer. I needed that space. I needed to breathe. The day I moved into my lake house, I stood on the old wooden deck and looked out across the still blue water. The air was so quiet I could hear the birds singing in the trees. I closed my eyes and thought back to Christmas, sitting alone, ignored by the people who were supposed to love me most. That was the moment everything changed, the moment I realized my worth. I took a deep breath, tasting freedom in the cold air. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone's backup plan. I didn't feel like a wallet with legs. I felt like me. I had drawn my line and held it no matter how they screamed and threatened. I had faced down my family's manipulations and come out stronger, bolder, and wiser. If that made me selfish, so be it. Maybe selfish wasn't a bad word after all. Maybe it was just another way to say I matter too. As the sun started to set over the water, painting the sky in pinks and golds, I let myself smile. I was free. No more guilt. No more fear. No more letting other people decide how much I was worth. This was my time now. I turned to go back inside, ready to unpack, ready to start my new life. I wasn't sure what the future would bring, but for once, I didn't feel worried. I felt strong. And I knew, deep in my heart, that no matter what happened, I would never let them treat me like that again. I was done. I was free.